Earlier this morning, our government introduced a bill to end conversion therapy in Canada. It's past time to put a stop to this unacceptable, discredited practice that has hurt far too many LGBTQ2 Canadians. Conversion therapy is harmful, degrading, and has no place in Canada. I hope all parties step up, come together, and support this bill.
In Canada, on January 8, 2022, Bill C-4 went into effect, making it a criminal offense to practice, promote, or profit from conversion therapy.
Conversion therapy, or reparative therapy, is a practice that uses any attempt to alter a person's sexual orientation, gender identity, or expression.
Shortly after the legislation was passed, Justin Trudeau, Prime Minister of Canada, tweeted, "It's official. Our government's legislation banning the despicable and degrading practice of conversion therapy has received royal assent, meaning it is now law. LGBTQ2 Canadians will always stand up for you and your rights."
In Canada's new law, C-4, which if you're not familiar with Canada's new legislation, Bill C-4, that has become law in Canada, the law against conversion therapy, they use LGBTQ2. And that 2 is important because it links back to critical theory and critical race theory, because the 2 is for Two-Spirit, which is the indigenous, Native American, Native Canadian, whatever, Indian way of talking about this kind of identity. It was referred to as Two-Spirit. So in their intersectional nod to critical race theory, they put LGBTQ2 on the bill there in Canada, because there is an inexorable link between critical theory, critical race theory, and queer theory, and sexual identity Marxism.
Over 4,000 pastors in Canada and the United States have come together to publicly protest the bill, because its broad wording could make merely teaching biblical ethics concerning homosexuality a criminal offense, deserving of up to 5 years in prison.
All right, so what's wrong with homosexuality? A number of things, but just a few in this context. Number one, it's a violation of the created order.
The bill defines conversion therapy as a practice, treatment, or service designed to repress or reduce non-heterosexual attraction or sexual behavior, repress a person's non-cisgender gender identity, or repress or reduce a person's gender expression that does not conform to the sex assigned to the person at birth. The bill also says that conversion therapy is based on and propagates the myth that heterosexuality, cisgender gender identity, and gender expression that conforms to the sex assigned to a person at birth are to be preferred over other sexual orientations, gender identities, and gender expressions. But, of course, the Bible teaches that homosexuality is a sin and a perversion of what God created sexuality to be.
It's the only sin, by the way, for which God destroyed cities with fire and brimstone. It's unique. It's unique. It's not like other sins. It's unique. Not all sins are called abominations. Homosexuality is unique in that regard. Very few sins in that category.
That all people should fight against and repress homosexual thoughts and behavior.
Can someone self-identify as gay and be a Christian?
Someone can identify as someone who is struggling with same-sex attraction. You will struggle.
And some people will call those, will identify that as gay Christians. That's what they will call themselves. You don't have a problem with that.
I have a big problem with that.
You do have a big problem with that.
And I'll tell you why.
As well as all other forms of sexual immorality, and that heterosexual and cisgender gender identity are to be preferred because they are what is true and normal.
He rooted his understanding of marriage in the teaching in Genesis chapter 2, the teaching in Genesis chapter 2 that gave us marriage between a man and a woman for the purposes of procreation, illustration, and sanctification. He also made it very clear that what man is joined together, what God has joined together, man cannot separate. In other words, God is the author of marriage, not man. Therefore, God is the one who defines marriage, not man. Therefore, man does not have the right to introduce the concept of same-sex marriage. Number one, because by definition, it's not marriage, it's another thing. And number two, because by definition, it goes against what was created in Genesis chapter 2.
And Christian pastors and parents are commanded by God to teach the entire Bible to their members and children. The bill does not at all say that it is acceptable for Christians, pastors, and parents to teach biblical ethics, which means it is entirely within the scope of Bill C-4 to imprison Christians for merely teaching what the Bible teaches. So, essentially, in Canada, it is now a criminal offense to teach Christianity. Pastor James Coates of Grace Life Church has already been imprisoned for merely wanting to continue holding church services when the Canadian government prohibited churches from gathering. Coates told Fox News he believes that Bill C-4 is anything but loving if it intends to shut the LGBT community off from the saving and transforming message of the gospel of Jesus Christ. Liberty Coalition Canada facilitated a protest where over 4,000 pastors in Canada and the United States stepped forward to push back against this new tyrannical law. John MacArthur became the chief promoter of this protest in the United States. MacArthur told Fox News, "Ultimately, the dissenters, the ones who will not cave in, are going to be those who are faithful to the Bible." MacArthur continued, "I think it's reached a level there in Canada that it hasn't yet reached here, but it's coming. It's coming fast." This comment by MacArthur is supported by the fact that his Sunday sermon about biblical sexual ethics, which he delivered as part of the protest against Bill C-4, was taken down by YouTube. While Canada may be further along in criminalizing Christianity than the United States, numerous states in the United States already have similar laws that make it criminal to teach what the Bible teaches about sexuality. And the trend seems to be that the number of these laws will continue to increase, not decrease. Of course, what we are experiencing in Canada and the United States is still nothing compared to the much more severe persecution that Christians in countries such as China, Afghanistan, and North Korea experience. But more and more, it's becoming official, even in these Western countries, that if you are a Christian who teaches what the Bible teaches, you are now a criminal.